Okay, in this one, I'm going to go through the basic electric circuit. What does what controls what the meter should show for different situations. This is extremely simple, but it seems to be one of the toughest things for new people to try to actually understand. So I'm going to try to go through this thing and see if I can make some sort of sense out of it for the beginners in electricity. Okay, I've got a power source right down here. Now that's just a cord coming in there. There's two terminals right here on either side of the meter, and those terminals are hot. That is the power source. Okay. Up here we have a light bulb, which is our load. And we got a switch, which is our switch. It's a single pole, single throw switch. Very simple on-off switch. Okay. When I first come up to this thing, in order to check this circuit out, probably the first thing I'm going to want to do is find out if I actually have power to the circuit at all. Okay, now what I've done is I put my probes for the meter on either side of this power source, and I'm reading 121.7. Now if this circuit, everything works in this circuit, because I have power coming to it, when I turn on the light, or turn on the switch, the light should come on. And shockingly it works. Okay, that's a good circuit. There's power coming in. Obviously the switch is working and the load's working. Now, what sort of readings should I have on these different components? Because I have to have a power source, I have to have a switch, and I have to have a load. If I put my probes on different terminals, what should they read? So let's check this out. Okay, I've put my probes on the terminals that go to the load. And if you look at the meter, you can see it says 21.9. Okay, so it's reading pretty much the same thing it did at the power. Now, what would happen if the load failed? Well, let's find out. Okay, I just unscrewed the light bulb. It didn't change, did it? There's no change in the reading to the light bulb because the light bulb, which is a load, has failed. There is a voltage drop across that light bulb, whether it's working or not. So across the load, you should read the same voltage you did down here at these terminals down here. So let's try another couple of tricks. Okay, now my light is working, and I've got the probes across the switch. Now the switch is closed. It's in the on position. Now the meter reads 0. Okay. There should not be, across a closed switch, you should read virtually no power across a closed switch. I mean, there is a small amount of voltage drop across a switch, but it's very, very small. In this case, it looks like it's about 0.002 of a volt. So, a closed switch should show no voltage at all across the switch. Now, I'm going to turn off the switch. Now, let's look at what's happened there. I'm showing 121 volts. Now, why am I showing 121 volts? I've got power coming from here, up through here, and through the load to the other side of the load. I mean, there's a resistance in the load, but there's power through it. It goes down to the switch, and I have power from this lead here going up to the switch. So the voltage drop across the switch is 121 volts because the switch is off. When I read across a switch and I read the voltage that would normally run through the system, it's telling me a couple of things. One, it's telling me there's voltage in the system. Two, it's telling me the switch is open. Three, it's telling me everything up to the switch has continuity. So it's kind of telling me everything's good except the switch. Now here again, if I turn it off or turn it on, I end up with 0 voltage. So I go to the source, I get power. I go to the load, I get power. If the load's working, then I should have power to the load. It's fairly obvious working anyway at that point. If I show power across the switch and the load doesn't work, then I know my switch is where my problem is. That's how all these things work. Now I'm going to come up with a few more on this thing because there's more to this sort of stuff. But this is the simple basics of it. And if you work methodically and you say power coming in, and then is there power to the load? Now, if there's power to the load and the load isn't working, well, obviously the load's failed. But you go power coming in, power to the load. Okay, no power to the load, then look for switches. Something, I mean, it could be broken wire, not real common, but it could be broken wire. Could be that the switch is some sort of safety that has shut it off. Anyway, that's the start of this little wiring troubleshoot.